The icy waves crashed against the wooden hull, salt spray biting into the skin of warriors gripping battle-worn shields. Lightning flashed, illuminating fearsome faces beneath iron helmets, eyes blazing with anticipation. Instantly, images of ruthless barbarism flood your mind, the screams, burning villages, bloodshed, and plunder. But wait, pause right there. What if everything you've ever known about Vikings was wrong? Forget horned helmets, savage brutes, and mindless killers. Reality, as it often turns out, is far more intriguing. So who were these mysterious Norse warriors, these explorers who carved their names across Europe and beyond? Buckle up as we separate myth from reality, diving deep into the astonishing world of the real Vikings. Let's slice through the myths first. Horned helmets. Thanks to popular culture, movies, cartoons, and costume stores everywhere, many people still picture Vikings storming ashore with monstrous horns sprouting from their helmets, roaring wildly into battle. But here's the kicker. There's zero historical evidence, none at all, to suggest Vikings wore horns on their helmets. In fact, historians agree this misconception probably sprang from romanticized 19th century artwork and operatic costume design. Actual Viking helmets discovered by archaeologists are surprisingly practical and horn-free. They're simple iron caps or skull coverings with nose guards, meant to deflect blows and protect warriors, not showcase ridiculous decorations that could snag on tree branches or enemy weapons. So toss away the horned helmet fantasy. Real Viking warriors valued practicality over theatrics. Then there's the stereotype of Vikings as savage, merciless barbarians. We've all seen the movies, muscular brutes howling with bloodlust, swinging massive axes, slaughtering innocents for pure enjoyment. But history tells a more nuanced story. True, Vikings weren't pacifists, far from it. They were fierce fighters, adept at swift and devastating raids. But their violence wasn't senseless. It had clear objectives, gaining wealth, land, status, and honor. Much Viking aggression was actually strategic and calculated, aimed at exploiting political instability in medieval Europe. Their brutality was real, but so was their surprising diplomacy. Viking leaders frequently negotiated treaties, forged alliances, and even integrated peacefully into conquered territories, blending their culture seamlessly with local traditions. They weren't just mindless killers, they were shrewd tacticians, traders, and diplomats. Now picture a Viking warrior. Are you imagining a towering, muscular giant with wild, untamed hair? While formidable warriors certainly existed, Vikings weren't all towering, muscle-bound titans. They were on average no larger than most Europeans of their era, often just 57 to 59 in height. Their strength didn't solely come from size, but from training, agility, and skill. Archaeological discoveries reveal diverse, lean physiques, suggesting Vikings relied heavily on speed, precision, and endurance, alongside sheer brute force. They maintained strict fitness regimes, trained rigorously in combat techniques, and practiced complex formations. Strength and agility were prized, but above all stood skill and adaptability. Another pervasive myth suggests Vikings were exclusively ruthless raiders focused purely on pillaging. But beneath that aggressive exterior was a highly sophisticated society, driven by commerce and exploration. Vikings were extraordinary traders, navigating treacherous seas and vast distances from Russia to Constantinople, trading everything from silver to silk, amber to ivory. Their advanced longships, sleek, agile, and brilliantly engineered, allowed for lightning-fast raids, sure. But these same ships took them on voyages of unprecedented exploration, opening trade routes and enabling settlement in regions like Greenland, and even reaching North America centuries before Columbus. The Viking Age was more than bloody raids. It was a golden era of exploration, commerce, and cultural exchange, connecting distant parts of the world long before globalization was even a concept. Speaking of exploration, let's obliterate another misconception: the belief that Vikings only settled in frozen wastelands or harsh, inhospitable environments. Reality tells a different story. Yes, they established settlements in challenging places like Iceland and Greenland, but they also created prosperous, sophisticated urban centers throughout Europe. Dublin in Ireland, York in England, and Normandy in France owe significant development to Viking settlers. In these cosmopolitan centers, Vikings transformed from seaborne raiders into urban craftsmen, merchants, and skilled artisans. They established well-organized cities with advanced social structures, thriving marketplaces, intricate legal systems, and impressive infrastructure. Clearly, Vikings weren't exclusively icebound savages. They built flourishing, multicultural cities that continue to thrive today. But Vikings were also skilled farmers and fishermen, something often overlooked in popular culture. Farming was the backbone of Norse society, and their survival depended heavily on agriculture. They grew crops like barley, oats, and rye, and raised cattle, sheep, and pigs. Vikings practiced advanced techniques like crop rotation and fertilization long before many European communities. Fishing, too, was essential. Scandinavia's fjords and rivers were abundant with fish like herring, cod, and salmon, and archaeological evidence suggests Vikings exported dried fish throughout Europe. These farmers and fishermen weren't merely raiders. They were resourceful, self-sufficient providers who understood sustainability long before it became a modern buzzword. But what about Viking women? Surely the real Vikings treated women harshly, right? Not quite. Viking society was surprisingly progressive in gender roles compared to other medieval societies. Viking women held considerable rights. They could own property, manage households, inherit wealth, and even initiate divorce. Some historical texts suggest a minority of women, known as shield-maidens, fought bravely alongside men. While the scale of shield-maiden involvement in battle remains debated, archaeological finds such as grave sites containing women buried with weapons strongly suggest female warriors did exist. These remarkable women shattered the stereotype that Viking society was rigidly patriarchal. Women weren't mere passive observers, they were active participants in shaping Viking culture and society. Now let's talk beliefs. Many assume Vikings were ignorant, crude pagans without spiritual depth. Wrong again. Their mythology was rich, poetic, complex, and filled with profound wisdom and existential insights. Norse gods like Odin, Thor, and Freya symbolized strength, honor, fertility, and wisdom. Vikings believed in intricate realms inhabited by giants, dwarves, elves, and spirits, bound together by destiny and cosmic fate. Their belief system offered moral guidance, explained natural phenomena, and prepared warriors spiritually for battle and the afterlife. Far from simplistic savagery, their religious worldview reflected deep philosophical reflection about life, death, and humanity's place in the cosmos. And finally, the stereotype of Vikings as isolated savages unwilling to learn from other cultures simply doesn't hold water. The truth is Vikings actively sought cultural exchange, learning from those they encountered. Evidence of Arabic silver, Byzantine silk, Asian spices, and even ancient Roman coins found in Viking settlements demonstrate extensive trade networks. Vikings adopted foreign influences in art, weaponry, agriculture, shipbuilding, and governance. Their famous runic alphabet, too, shows influences from other writing systems. Vikings weren't stubborn isolationists. They embraced new ideas, technology, and cultural perspectives, weaving them into the vibrant tapestry of Norse life. Ultimately, the real Vikings defy simplistic stereotypes. They weren't mere brutes in horned helmets. They were complex, multifaceted people driven by ambition, curiosity, honor, and ingenuity. Fierce in battle, yes, but equally skilled in trade, diplomacy, exploration, craftsmanship, and poetry. Vikings navigated a delicate balance between violence and culture, conquest and collaboration, tradition and innovation. They built cosmopolitan cities, groundbreaking trade routes, championed progressive social roles, and grappled deeply with spiritual questions. History is rarely black and white, and Vikings remind us reality is far richer and infinitely more fascinating than myth.